Hi guys, welcome to the next part of our workshop series. In this part, we will talk about helpful and unhelpful beliefs and how to change unhelpful beliefs into the helpful beliefs. We already mentioned this topic in our previous workshops and in the child work and in resourcing, and we call them negative and positive cognitions. Now what we'll do, we revisit this subject in depth. In the beginning, as usual, we'll briefly talk about what are positive and negative cognitions, why it's so important to change negative beliefs, cognitions to positive for true connection with inner self. I will give you a little bit of a neurological background of how our beliefs really affect our brain function. And then we will go to the practical exercises to show you how to change beliefs that create pain for you into beliefs that create joy and happiness. Let's go on this journey together. So now let's talk about what is cognition. Cognition is just a collective term for all the mental processes that acquire, understand, and respond to any information from the outside world and sometimes from the inside world. So these processes can include the language, problem solving, decision making, perceptions, memory, and thought. But in this workshop, we are really concentrating on cognitive processes that include our emotions and behaviors. And these cognitive processes can be negative and positive. Negative processes, they are painful, unhelpful beliefs about ourselves and the world that was kind of downloaded into us either by our parents or by friends, by environment, primarily in the childhood. So remember how we discussed in our previous workshops that child's brains are very malleable. They're like a sponge that absorb all the information and retain it and take it as a gospel truth. Later on, the brain kind of harden. Later on in life, our brain becomes less absorbable and we can differentiate and discriminate information. But as a child, we can't. What is going on for our brain in the childhood? Two things. We do not discriminate, we do not analyze, and we absorb very quickly and very deeply. Here we come to the point of saying that yes, most of the cognitions are being formed in the childhood. The same thing happens with the positive cognitions. If we were told that we're wonderful, or if our parents created the safe environment for us, if we wasn't traumatized in the childhood, but maybe in opposite, our natural abilities were reinforced and we lived in a happy, stable, friendly environment, then our perception of the world, these beliefs that we absorbed, that our sponge of the brain absorbed in the childhood, are helpful, positive, joyous beliefs about the world. So later on, when we grow up, some of these beliefs can be changed in a way with some information. And it goes both for negative and positive beliefs. So just one disclaimer, when I'm saying about positive, it doesn't mean they're miracle beliefs or they beliefs in some kind of a supernatural things that are not happening in the real world. They are not narcissistic beliefs. They are not omnipotent beliefs about ourselves. They are adaptable, realistic beliefs about the world. And we'll definitely talk about this later. How do beliefs affect our functioning? For now, let's just stay with the convention and call them negative and positive. If we have a negative, painful beliefs about the world, as example, the belief is, I am not safe, world is dangerous. So what happens? When there is a signal in our nervous system. I am not safe. Our amygdala, our protective, instinctive part of the brain, get activated and it sends messages to our whole system. We need to mobilize. There is a danger. So in essence, the whole system mobilizes for survival. So in turn, what happens? Our prefrontal cortex, executive function, that is responsible for decision making, is going down in functioning. Why? Because when we're running away from a tiger, i.e., we're in a survival mode, we are not thinking what is best for my actualization. We are not thinking about our life purpose. No. All our system is mobilized to do is get us safely to another maybe side of the river, where our tiger cannot reach us. And once we get away from the tiger, once we get into the safety, then amygdala can relax a bit and give some energy, allow prefrontal cortex to get some energy and allow us start relaxing and start making some decisions and thinking about something other than our physical survival. That explains why we always viewing world or ourselves or our environment in unhelpful negative terms. We're always in a state of anxiety or as a byproduct can be in a state of depression or both, but in either way, we cannot make clear decisions. We cannot really function to our ultimate potential. But when we are in a positive, relaxed, safe state, if we know world is safe, I am protected. Well, speaking of realistic beliefs, say, well, most of the time I am protected. Sometimes I'm not, but as an adult, I can make an assessment and I can make precautions to protect myself. So here we stay in a positive, adaptable belief. So what happens? Our amygdala is saying, okay, it is safe, or even if it's not safe, then only when it's not safe, then I can mobilize myself. But now everything is good and safe. So I can relax and I can allow the system to relax. And now prefrontal cortex can come online and help the system, help ourselves to put our plans in motion, to create new plans, to connect to something higher than ourselves, connect to our true strengths. So do all these good things that help us on our journey to our true self and to fulfilling our life mission. Because that is impossible to do without a clear functioning of our executive system, about creating and executing our plans, putting them in motion. Okay, now we'll start talking about, is it possible to change negative beliefs into positive? Absolutely. And later on in this presentation, you will see some practical exercises. And in our individual sessions, we will fine-tune these exercises and will create an individualized special program for you depending on your specific negative beliefs. So going back, how do these beliefs actually form in our brain? Let's look at our brain as a system of individual TBT neurons, like kind of a cells of communication, little particles that communicate with each other, talk to each other through neural networks. When a child is born, these neural networks are very tiny because there is not much information is incoming. Remember the sponge brain? The more child absorbing this information, the stronger these connections get. Remember our example from previous workshops of looking at our brains as a forest, and each pathway, neural pathway, this connection between neurons of communicating of the information, is a little road in the forest. The more we take one particular road in the forest, the more wide it gets, right? The more easy to take it. It means the stronger the connection between two neurons take, the stronger the connection, the easier it becomes our default network. So what happens here is this, the more we think certain thoughts, the more we act on certain behaviors, the stronger this connection in our brain becomes. It's like the wider and easier to take the road in the forest becomes. The more our brain, which, as you remember, is lazy, they don't want to work too much if they don't have to. The more instinctually our brain will start taking this road, or thinking certain thoughts, or acting on certain impulses, or repeating certain behaviors. So that's pretty much how any positive or negative beliefs work as neuronal connections which are straightening and becoming our default. Can we change them? Absolutely. That's where our neuroplasticity comes in. Because even though when we grow up, our brain are not as adaptable and plastic as in childhood, there is still ways to change them. We can still weaken certain connections and which we don't need, don't use. We can weaken them to a point which they would be hardly noticeable. And we can straighten the connections that we need to use, that we want to foster, okay, and then we want to make our default connections. It's like going back briefly to the example that we used in the previous workshop. If the road in the forest that is wide and straight and easy to take are not leading us where we need to go, we're starting to forge another road, means straightening another, maybe abandoned neural connection. So we work harder and harder and harder on cleaning this road. And then eventually, actually, we work harder and harder in the very beginning. And then we will start noticing, as with any road in the forest, it becomes cleaner, it becomes wider. We still have to make an effort to clean it and widen up, meaning straighten neural connection. But maybe we can just use less effort because it becomes more habitual and it's easier for us. Until one day, the old road completely disappears. Well, it's still going to be there. It's not going to completely be taken off the map or out of the forest, but it will be all overgrown, so it would be harder to travel on it than on the new cleaned up road. So what it means, we are weakening the old connections that we decided that we don't want to use, and we straighten the new connections that we find useful in our life. In one, eventually, our default connection, our brain would be going towards this new road. If you're working on example, on to changing negative belief, I'm not safe, to the positive belief, I am safe. That's exactly how it works. Habitually, you used to think, I'm not safe going down that road, and react to the world in this fashion. So in the very beginning, you mostly, once you starting conscientiously change your perception, I am not safe to I am safe, the cleaner, the wider I am safe road will become. In the very beginning, you mostly will be traveling I am not safe road, but you will be able to catch yourself and say, no, this is not the road that I need to take. I'm going back, and I'm conscientiously taking the other road. I am safe road. In the beginning, again, that would be very, very hard. But the more you do it, the easier it will become. Okay, and again, I want to put this disclaimer in here. This process that I'm describing only applies to people without complex PTSD or post-traumatic or any kind of a post-traumatic stress disorder. Even if you have PTSD and post-traumatic stress disorder, you might still use this step, but you would need more somatic work. You would need to really work more on your safety. And there is on the other different tools, which is outside of the scope of this program. And when I screen for this program, I specifically trying to ask people who have PTSD or complex PTSD is to first work with a therapist, because this takes primary importance. Once the systems are kind of coming down, or once it's been worked through in some ways, which might take months or years, then of course I would welcome them in this program. Why I'm saying that? Because our safety first. These exercises that I'm going to show are only applicable to people who have not been diagnosed with either mental illness like schizophrenia or CPTSD or PTSD. Okay? So before we start with the exercises, I think it's important to mention how traumatic events affect our perception of reality, formation of these negative beliefs. And when I say trauma it means anything painful that happens to us throughout life, but mostly in a childhood. It can be severe beatings, it can be losing a parent, so big things. Or it can be such seemingly small things as being teased by a best friend, or losing the favorite toy, or not seeing your parents showing up for a performance. Any kind of event that tells us you're not worthy, or you're not lovable, or people will always make fun of you, something is wrong with you. Basically, something is not right about you, or something is not right about the world, forms trauma. Okay, that's very important to understand. And again, trauma work is outside of the scope of this workshop, but I just want to introduce you to certain aspect of it. Okay, so let's go through some examples of how any kind of a childhood trauma can lead to formation of negative cognitions. As example, altered safety perception. When we start seeing world is an unsafe way, world is dangerous. So as example, as a child, you get in a car accident, and there's going to be lots of pain and lots of fear around it. If this has not been worked through, you might form a cognition, a belief, world is dangerous. Or you might have get robbed, or your parents might have get robbed, or your house might be broken in. Okay, I'm not even talking about traumas like being raped or beaten up, or continuously injured or beaten up or thrown out of the house. These are very, very significant traumas. But any kind of traumas, unless they're not processed, can form this perception. Negative image of yourself. Like, as example, I'm thinking I am worthless. If, say, even our parents scream at us every time we bring a bad grade, and we might bring lots of bad grades home, and say, you're so worthless, you cannot even make a good grade. Here, we are forming the belief about ourselves. Or if we're being blamed for everything around the house, or in school, maybe we're becoming a scapegoat in our family, or with our friends. So here's our cognition becomes, it's always my fault. Okay, I'm always blamed. I deserve to be punished. That's a negative image of ourselves. And again, like I say, altered safety perception, heightened sense of threat. It comes as a close cousin to it. This usually happens when we had a repeated abuse or repeated feeling of unsafety in a childhood. So our perception may be, I always have to be in the high alert. I'm always in danger. People out to get me. Trust issues, especially when we were betrayed or lied to in a childhood. So we start thinking, I cannot trust anyone, or people always out to get me. Sense of avoidance and isolation from reality. In many cases happens when we were bullied as children, or when it was physically or emotionally unsafe to be around our parents, or when that's kind of usually happens when we had nobody in our life who we can confide in, or who we can trust, either with our physical safety or with our feelings as children. So we start believing that I am alone, there is nobody who understands me. Perception of interpersonal difficulties if we weren't loved by our parents, or if in our formative years, maybe in elementary school, maybe in middle school, we were again bullied or had hard time finding any friends, or maybe later on finding hard time to finding boyfriends. So we might start forming this habitual ways of thinking about ourselves that I am unlovable, I always will be alone, I will always be abandoned, which can have deeper beliefs about ourselves. So I'm not worthy, I'm shameful. Thoughts about our abilities for memory, for remembering things, for achieving something. Again, if you were told, it's kind of goes together with the sense of I'm worthy. If you were told as a child that you're stupid, okay, or then you had maybe some issues in school and you felt like you weren't on par with other students, you might form a belief that I am stupid, or I cannot remember anything, I am going crazy. Another example might be continuous negative outlook about the future. If you really didn't have any breaks or very little breaks as a child, or maybe your parents told you that life is scary, that you always have to fight, you always have to be on a high alert and always have to be prepared for the future, you might form this belief that future is dangerous, or I have to always be on high alert, or I have to work really hard to achieve anything. Things don't come easy to me. In line with negative beliefs, close cousin of a negative belief that I want to mention here are so-called cognitive distortions. This is again a little bit outside of the scope of our workshop, but I want to introduce them to you. So if you sense that you have any of these distortions, we might want to work on them in our individual session, or at least address them. And this can be different ones. An example, black and white thinking, like everything people in the world is either all good or all bad. There is nothing gray around it. Can be overgeneralization. If, say, as example, your car breaks down once, you'll say, well, I don't get a break, the world is unsafe, I'm in danger, I cannot do anything, I'm a failure, my car broke down, I cannot go to work today, my life is useless, everything is useless. Or catastrophizing. As example, again, your car breaks down, you cannot go to work today, you have to call your boss to say that you have to work from home, but even before you call, you start thinking, my boss will absolutely hate me, he will be so disappointed, he will fire me, I will never find another job, I will lose all my savings and die under the bridge. I'm exaggerating, but I want you to show how this cognitive distortion works. So if you think or feel that you have some of them, bring them up with me, and we might even have separate sessions on them. But it's very important to kind of start connecting to yourself and assessing if you have any of this distorted or incorrect perceptions about ourselves and the world. Another significant impact on forming negative beliefs about the world, which not necessarily connected with childhood, can be so called learned helplessness. What it means if throughout life we had many events, some events happened to us that we couldn't control. As example, critical illness or bankruptcy or death of a loved one. We started feeling maybe the grief lasts for a long time. Maybe it takes us years to recover and we might never regain our health to the same point as it used to be before the illness. Or we had very, very hard time to find any new job and to go through the savings. And we have to take the job maybe that is significantly lower than our experience or our education. It's possible for our system to start kind of giving up and changing, because here we're getting the new information from the world. Remember when we talked about our neural connections, about our roots in the forest? The one that gets worked on, the one that gets more used, straightens. So even if, let's say before the illness, we used to think about ourselves as healthy and around world as safe, the sudden shock of an illness and prolonged treatments, which might be not as successful as we hope for, I'm not saying they will, but they can create so-called learned helplessness when we start thinking there is nothing we can do. Like this illness happened to me and there is nothing I could have done to prevent it. Or my loved one died and there is nothing I can do to change it. And there is nothing I could have done to prevent it. So our belief, and if we attach to this belief, it becomes our default network, because we're straightening this belief. I am not capable. I am unsafe. Our negative cognitions might form even in adulthood through this process of acquired learned helplessness. Okay? So kind of to summarize about learned helplessness, because it's very important, because lots of people don't take into account the changes in perception acquired in adulthood. Usually it works like that, just to summarize it. We're getting exposed to uncontrollable conditions. Sometimes repeatedly. We get sick, we get fired, loved one dies. And we gradually start feeling that our actions have no impact on outcomes. So we start feeling helpless and less motivated to even try. And then we start generalizing our learned helplessness in some situations to everything else. I was not able to prevent my illness. This way I cannot able to control anything in my life. I was not able to help my loved one. I cannot help anything in my life. I cannot help anybody. So we start believing that no matter what we do, our efforts are useless. That's learned helplessness. Now let's talk about other reasons for negative beliefs. They can be cultural influences. Even the certain culture that you were raised, maybe the country was under war, or maybe the country where I came from, Russia, was just coming out of the period of dictatorship, like Stalin's time. Then usually the population, probably including your parents, sees the world as unsafe. If you're coming from some cultures, like again collectivistic cultures of Russia, where you couldn't praise yourself, you had to put yourself down in a way and say, well, this is not me, this is my team, this is my group. You might start creating perception, well, I'm not good enough. I cannot do anything on my own. I shouldn't be praising myself. I'm selfish if I'm praising myself. Okay? And again, we already talked parental style and early life experiences. We already talked in the early life experiences, but in this context, they can be connected to how parents raised us. There is a different types of parents. There can be authoritative parents and like laissez-faire parents and the parents who completely, let's say, abandon us. So the only kind of a healthy parental style that probably will not lead to the formation of negative cognitions can be authoritative parents. The ones that provide us guidelines, set some boundaries, but at the same time they listen to us and they take our opinions into account. Authoritative parents, that would be the ones who would just give us orders. They might care for us, they might love us, but they will not listen to us. They will not take into account our worldview. They will just give us orders and create very, very strict, inflexible boundaries. Laissez-faire parents, on the other hand, are the parents who might also love and care for children very deeply, but they not set up any boundaries. They don't give children any structure. They kind of let children do what they please. And the last type of parents are parents who completely abandon children, don't care for them, sometimes don't provide them with even elementary physical safety, no matter about emotional safety. With parental styles, we can form different thoughts about ourselves. As example, I'm always guilty, okay, with authoritative parents. Or it can be something like, I am worthless because my parents don't care for me. Or I can do anything, which is also negative cognition, which is like, if we have a laissez-faire parents, we might say, well, there is no boundaries for me, which is also not true. Okay? There can be some biological factors, like genetics or brain chemistry. They can also create difficult beliefs about ourselves. So basically, there is a different brain's imbalances that affects our cognition. That's also outside of the scope of this program. If we have any of that, we might talk to psychiatrists and possibly take some medications. Well, chronic stress. Chronic stress in many cases can be close cousin of learned helplessness. If we continuously live in a high alert, our body eventually weakens. You know how in the beginning we talked about amygdala taking the control of our system? Prefrontal cortex, executive function, kind of releasing this control, going offline for the time being. So if body continues to be under stress, besides biological changes, we are reacting to the situations like, with inability to cope, we're feeling like no matter how much we run from a tiger, we still cannot get far enough. So our body gets stressed out, our emotional system gets stressed out and go into the learned helplessness and possibly can give up. Okay, so there can be also different health issues that's important to remember. Well, substance abuse can lead to negative cognitions. And the big one, which I want just to mention briefly, it's comparison that we see on social media, and we can create the whole world about it, feeling that no matter what we achieve, no matter how we look or feel, we are not measuring up. That might not be the case for you, but I just wanted to put it in here, so it's kind of important to remember that it's out there. Okay. Why is it important to cultivate positive cognitions? Besides obvious benefits to the health, we have to remember that we, especially we're trying to connect to the true selves, we all working with energy. We are projecting certain energy. If we look at yourself and the world negatively, we attract the negative energy. Why is it so important to cultivate positive cognition? When saying positive, again, I want to re-emphasize adaptable, realistic, and helpful beliefs about self and reality for connection with our true self. Because First of all, any beliefs leads to certain feelings, and the feelings are energy. If we constantly are being in a lower energetic vibrations, we cannot truly connect to the true self that is higher energetic vibration. Remember, the true self is in all of us. It never changes. It's always wise. It's always loving. It's always vibrating at the highest energy. But to really connect to it, we have to vibrate at the same energy. The energy of love, of self-compassion, of acceptance of ourselves and others. So that's why it's so essential. And also positive beliefs, they help us to open up to the world. Okay, to see some possibilities in the world that we might not have seen otherwise. They allow us to really look at ourselves as a child of God, as a perfect, amazing child of the universe. Because think about it, if you keep thinking about yourself, I am shameful, or I am not worthy, I am not good enough, how can you treat yourself as a beautiful child of God, and how can you treat yourself like that? Because, we can always give others what we have in ourselves. If we don't have love for ourselves, we cannot give it to others. If we don't have respect for ourselves, we cannot give it to others. If we don't have trust in ourselves, we cannot trust others. And we cannot help others to trust us. We cannot help others to love us. You see how it works? And if we feel that world is a dangerous place, it's never safe, people are always out there to get me, but how can we open up to the world? How we explore the different opportunities, right? How we can even set up on this journey to fulfilling our life mission if we will be feeling that every step on this journey is not safe for us, or if we will be feeling that we're not good enough or smart or capable to fulfill our life mission. Once we adopt the realistic beliefs, adaptable beliefs, we will be really then grounded in reality. Because there is a tendency in us. Nobody wants to suffer. We humans don't want to suffer. So in some cases, the living in negative beliefs leads to escapism. We want to either escape physically, like using drugs or drinking, or gambling, shopping. We want to escape that way, not thinking about it. Or sometimes we escape into the fantasy world, like creating distorted image of ourselves, getting into denial of our humanity. All these escapes create blocks to connection with the true self. In our next video session, we will talk about these escapes in depth. But mostly these escapes are driven by our desire to run away from painful beliefs about ourselves. So by acquiring really honestly looking at ourselves, by acquiring this honest view, we don't have to run away from anything. So we can really ground ourselves in reality. And only being grounded in reality will help us to go on and fulfill our life purpose. Once we start shifting into the positive beliefs, let's talk about how you will start feeling that reality shifting. Basically, how would you know that your positive beliefs becoming your instinctual response to reality? You will have an improved self-perception, the perception of who you are. You will see yourself more accurately and with more kindness. Okay? And this accurate and compassionate self-assessment is crucial for establishing connection with your true self. Remember, accurate and compassionate. So here we can also see our shadow side. We can see some things about ourselves that we don't like, but we will love ourselves in our wholeness. Okay, so maybe we will work on improving certain things we don't like if they can be improved, and accepting certain things we don't like if they cannot be improved. But that will not change our absolute unconditional love for ourselves. Accurate self-perceptions. Well, you will start noticing that you have improved self-esteem. Basically, you will be placing yourself just in the accurate placement of where you need to be, which is, hey, I am beautiful, perfect child of God. I don't have to be the best singer, or I don't have to be the richest person in the world. I don't have to be whatever society says the most beautiful person in the world to feel whole and connected and important to myself and to others. So, with self-esteem, you will see that you have improved emotional regulation, meaning that you will get stressed less, you will get anxious less, you will get depressed less, you will be more balanced in responses to different situations. You will notice that you're reacting to the reality of the situation, not from some triggers of the past. And we discuss these triggers in inner child work and resourcing. So basically what you will know, and you will start sensing that you're responding to something that's happening as is happening now, and not imagining the situation that is happening is something that has happened to you maybe in your childhood. So I'll just give you again the example that I gave in the previous workshop. As example, you change your negative belief, I am worthless, to a positive, normal belief, I am capable, I'm worthy. So it's been changed. And even in the past, if your husband asked you, would you do the dishes? And you have a belief, I am not capable, I am worthless, you will react out of this belief. You start thinking, oh, he's saying I'm not doing anything about home, around the household. I'm useless for our family. He feels like I'm completely not contributing to anything. And of course, he cannot love me. Just because I have to contribute something, and I am not. So I am completely worthless. So that's how you would feel. So you would react to this request. Well, according to your defense style, you might start attacking your husband. And start saying, how dare you? How dare you make me do anything? So you might fight him. You might fly, or you might cry. You might all of a sudden start crying and leave the room, or maybe even leave the house. Or you might phone and start washing these dishes, even if you don't want to do it. But in essence, you will not be responding to what just happened. And all that happened is my husband asked if I can do the dishes. He did not imply by any means that it has anything to do with my character and with my worth in his eyes or in anybody else's eyes. But if this belief has been changed and I'm having a normal belief, I'm a normal, worthy, capable person, and if he asks me to do the dishes, I will react to just what happens in this moment. So I will think, do I want to do the dishes? If it's okay with me, if I don't mind, I will just go do the dishes. If for whatever reason I don't feel like doing dishes, I will just respond to the situation saying, I don't feel like it, not now. Or, do you mind doing them yourself? I'll do them later. Or, no, I just don't feel like doing them. You see, I'm just responding to what happened without assigning any additional meanings. That's that. And what's important also, which comes hands in hand with emotional regulation, we will become more cognitively flexible. It means we will start changing some rigid beliefs about something. So, as example, same thing. People always want to take advantage of me. Like my husband asked me to wash the dishes. He wants to take advantage of me. Or he feels like I'm not worthy. I have to be told what to do. We will be more flexible. It's possible that might be that. But I know my husband, he loves me, he cares. So most likely he doesn't mean anything to it by it. But as example, if we know we have a boss who is always pushy and he always only has his best interests in mind, not team's, not yours. All he's looking for is a promotion and he's willing to take advantage of you. And he asks you to do something that is outside of the scope of your responsibilities at work. Then with this cognitive flexibility, you might react to the reality of the situation, saying, is he asking me to do it? Why? Because he wants to aggrandize himself, or because he doesn't care for me, he doesn't care for my well-being. So we might react out of that, but we react flexibly. We might say, no, we'll not do it. Or we might still do it, or we'll have to, but we will know what's behind it, and it doesn't reflect of who you are. Basically, we will react to the situation how it is. And of course, once we start adapting positive beliefs, we will be motivated for spiritual development. Because remember what we talked about before? When we're in an anxiety state, when we're in a state of always scanning the world for attacking us, it's hard for our system to allow for any kind of spiritual growth, because all it's concerned with our physical safety. All our energy is devoted to making sure that we're physically safe. As we talked about before, remember, this is the primary responsibility of our system. Spiritual development, or any kind of development, is only possible when we feel safe, secure, and peaceful. And of course, increased purpose and motivation. Purpose and motivation to go on to discover who you really are and fulfill your life mission. Again, once your system gets balanced, once you know that you're safe, you're protected, and you're capable to affect your life, you will have more positive thoughts, right? About yourself, just about life in general. And when you will be motivated, not just by your physical survival, and this is be given, your survival is given. Once your system will know that, then your system can start being motivated by getting you to helping you to fulfill your mission, helping you to become joyous, helping you to relax and feel happy and peaceful in your life. Okay? And the more you think like that, the more your actions will be aligned with your true self, and the more your life will start flowing more freely and joyously and peacefully, and lead you to the pinnacle of our program, living completely and wholly out of your true self. And now we will look into some practice. We will talk more about what the cognitions are in practice. I will give you some examples, and then I will show you some exercises of how you can start changing them in your world. Okay, guys, and now we will talk about these painful beliefs, negative cognitions themselves. First of all, I will give you examples of what they are, how you know that you have painful perceptions about yourself, unhelpful beliefs about yourself or the world. Then we'll show you the positive cognitions. I mean the helpful beliefs that negative cognitions can be changed into. And in the end of the second part, we'll talk about the actual approaches, exercises that you can start doing yourself once you figure out which negative beliefs you want to work on. And of course, once we get to our individual session on this subject, we will definitely go over your situation. We will isolate the main negative beliefs that you would need to work on, and we will fine-tune or customize the plan for your specific needs and your situation. So for now, I will just invite you just listen, absorb the information. Of course, you can ask me any questions. This is an important subject, okay? So I will just say sit back, listen, and you can always rewind it. Don't worry about it because you can always rewind and listen to it again. So now let's go to our first slide, which called responsibility defectiveness, negative and possible cognitions. We also will go about responsibility action type of cognitions, then safety and vulnerability, and power, control, and choice. And just to let you know, the breakdown is kind of arbitrary. It comes from Francis Shapiro, who is a founder of a therapy that called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, that one of the leading approaches to trauma work. And of course, here we're not doing trauma work per se, but we're including some parts of that approach into our overall program, because rewiring our painful beliefs caused by trauma is an integral part of true authentic connection to our true self. So I just want to let you know where it comes from. It's kind of not arbitrary. This differentiation in the different categories just kind of makes it as easy to understand the roots of this painful belief. So, okay, here is first part, responsibility defectiveness. Let's look at a few negative beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve love, okay? Or the big one here, I am shameful. This is probably about defectiveness. And responsibility, which also sometimes comes with defectiveness in this case, it's, as example, I have to be perfect because I think I'm not adequate. Okay, so there is a very painful one here. I deserve to die. This belief saying, I am defectful and I am responsible for my own defectiveness, and I am responsible for not letting other people down based on my defectiveness. Okay, so how do those beliefs usually formed? That type of beliefs usually formed in the vast majority of cases in the childhood, when we were repeatedly told by parents or caretaking figure that we never could not be loved, that something is very deeply wrong with us, that we're never good enough. One of the maybe easiest example, and again, there is no easy negative cognitions, but some can be slightly less painful than others. So maybe slightly less painful is, again, remember, not just not painful, slightly less, I am not good enough. That might be formed when our parents say, well, why is it A minus? Why not A plus? Then you bring A plus, why not the first student in your grade? You become first student in your grade, why not first student in the whole universe? So no matter what we do, we never get praise. So our mind starts thinking, no matter what I do, I'm not good enough. Okay? So I will always have to thrive. I will always have to try to push even further. Okay? So, and from that belief, we can go on a very painful level, which might say, here we go down, say, well, I'm never good enough. So, deeper level here, I am a bad person. Why am I not good enough? Because I'm bad. I cannot be ever good. So do you see how much pain is here? Okay, this is when maybe our parents will not just tell you why you're not first student. They will always say, you never look at yourself. You're so stupid, or you just don't work too hard, just not a hard worker. They will give us some demeaning attributes. And of course, remember child's brains, who are very absorbing and malleable. So what the child hears, I am bad. No matter what I do, no matter how I try, it's never good enough. So what does it mean? It means there is no hope for me. I'm just bad, and a bad person can never be good. And then it might go to completely encompassing your core. I am shameful. It means I do not deserve any good things in life because I'm not good enough. That means I'm a bad person. So there is something very, very deeply wrong in the core in me, that people are ashamed of me and I am ashamed of myself. And shame, as we'll talk about in the different presentation, is one of the lowest vibration. That when we say I am shameful, it means I cannot change no matter what I do. It's useless. Why? Because my core cannot be changed. It's not like I am guilty, because I'm saying I'm guilty. I'm saying, well, I done something wrong, but I can either atone for it, or I can fix it, or worst case scenario, I will never do it again, because my core is okay. But when we say I am shameful, it means my whole core is rotten and there is no hope for me. And then that type of belief can go even deeper. It might just go to a belief that I deserve to die. And sometimes this belief is subconscious. And we're thinking, I don't really deserve to live. Why? Because I bring only pain to others. That especially, this belief can even be preverbal. Especially when our parents, they didn't want us. Or we were burdened to our parents from the very beginning. Or we were born with some handicap. Maybe physical, maybe mental, that put lots of strain on our caretakers and they deeply resented it. And maybe they were thinking, well, this child should have never been born. Why have I done it? And as children, we're sponges. Parents don't have to tell it to us. They just have to think it. And we will know. So sometimes that can be very conscious belief. I don't know why I'm living. It's better for everybody if I don't exist. Sometimes we don't realize it. It can be subconscious, so deep and preverbal in your preverbal core, so deep in your body that we don't realize it, but that belief doesn't go anywhere. So what happens? We start getting really ill, either mentally or physically or both. We start getting deeply, deeply depressed, and we don't know why. That can be possibly that our body gave itself a command: exterminate yourself. It's better for our system not to exist. Okay, so these beliefs are no jokes. They're very, very serious. Why I'm spending that much time on them? Because I want for you to really understand how important, not just for your self-realization, not just for fulfillment of your life purpose, but how is it important for your overall well-being is to understand at your core what do you believe about yourself and the world at your core, what you believe consciously, what you believe subconsciously, and start changing these beliefs to the helpful beliefs. Let's go back to those beliefs and what beliefs they can be changed to. So as you can see in the opposite column, there are so-called positive cognitions that are adaptable, helpful beliefs. So if we were raised thinking I'm not good enough, we can change it to I am good enough. I am fine as I am. Do you see what I was saying here? We're not saying, which is also very important, and we will go over it in the individual session, of how to frame them. Framing is very important. I'm not saying I am the best person in the world. Oh, I'm just perfect. We're saying I'm good enough for myself. And I'm fine with myself just the way I am. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean there is nothing in me that I might want to change. Yeah, there is maybe some character qualities that I don't like about myself. But this is okay too. I can dislike some character qualities in myself, but I might still think that I'm a good person. I'm okay. And I love myself just the way I am. But at the same time, I might start paying some attention and hopefully some effort to changes what I want to change. But doing it with love, compassion, and absolute respect for who we are. Okay, or next one that we discussed, I'm a bad person. For this one, I can say I'm a good, loving person. Because that we are. And if I feel there is not enough love in my heart, that might be because in many cases we close our hearts. We all have love in there, like we all have a true self. But sometimes we just close this door and we cannot get in. So we can say, no, at my core, I'm a good, loving person, as we all are, invariably. Because we are children, perfect children of God. That's how we're all born. But I'm a loving person. All I need to do, I need to find my way back to that love. I need to find my way back to that gift that all of us have just because we are. Okay? So that's how that works. Let's go down because I really want you to understand the principle. Next one we were looking at, I am shameful. Okay, here it says the opposite cognition, I'm honorable. So we can use this one or we can use the previous one, like I'm worthy, I'm worthwhile. Here we can play a little bit. And again, this list comes directly from Shapira's book, who is considered to be the book that you will have in your references. This is called Eye Movement, again, desensitization and reprocessing therapy. But you can play around with it. This is just kind of a look at it as a cheat sheet, to understand the principle. I'm shameful. Well, I can say, let's use what she got here. But you'll get the drift. I'm honorable. Why? I have an honor in me. God, universe gave it to me. We're all born with goodness. We're all born with love. We're all born with honor. We're all born with health. We're all born with being significant and importance. What happens with trauma, with neglect? We disconnect from our core and we stop believing in ourselves. We start seeing ourselves through dirty glasses. Or you can call it, is a room when you go, there is a mirrors, and this mirror shows the fake, distorted images of you. Okay, and children sometimes used to go to this exhibits of these mirrors and laugh and themselves and their distorted images. That's what happens to us with painful experiences, with traumatic experiences, with being disregarded, with making feeling that we're not loved, that we're not honored. We start believing it about ourselves. It's like seeing ourselves in the world through these distorted mirrors or through dirty glasses. So what are we doing here? We're just coming back home to our core self. We started seeing the world through clear glasses. We're cleaning out our glasses, okay? Or maybe we're taking the glasses off and our vision just becomes perfect. Or we're just walking out of this distorted mirror room saying, no, I am getting the most clean, the more precise mirror. And I'm using only that one. Because I know who I am. Okay? That's how we change it. And I say, no, in the core, I am loving. I am amazing. I'm perfect in a way. Person. There is everything in me. But with life experiences, I lost connection. This quality is still in me. But I lost connection to some of those qualities. And in the process, I might have acquired some qualities that I might not like about myself. Maybe I get angry very quick. Again, nothing wrong with anger. It's just a feeling, but maybe I just unload on people because there is so much pain in me. Okay, I acquired fear. I acquired thinking that something is wrong with me and I start hiding from people or I'm attacking people. So we're just kind of slowly removing this unhelpful, negative, untrue beliefs about ourselves that we acquired them. Some of them we can just remove. Some of them, if they're very deeply ingrained, we can change. But remember, our core is always beautiful. So that's so important to remember when we're working with negative and positive cognitions. It's not just mantras. We're not lying to ourselves. We're just getting back to our core as perfect children of God and helping ourselves to change things that we don't really need, that are not ours, okay, that don't belong to us. Even the worst one, which we discussed before, I deserve to die. Does anybody deserve to die? Think about it. And we're really telling our body, yes, maybe my parents out of pain were thinking that they didn't want me. Does it have any effect on me, to my value as a human being? No, I deserve to live. I always deserve to live. Why? Just because I was born. Just because, for whatever reason, my soul decided to inhabit this body and it was supported by the universe. To say that I deserve to die is to say that the universe made a mistake, and it never does. So that can be our process, especially in our spiritual type of program. I find this approach, besides the approaches that I will tell you later in this presentation, more like a therapeutic trauma-based approaches, I find this approach very, very helpful. Just really connecting to our core, at least if we cannot connect it somatically, from our body, if we cannot connect it with all our being, at least for now, connect to it logically. Just think about it. Say, maybe I don't believe it yet, but let me just remind myself, just as an exercise, I'm a perfect child of God. I am always good. I'm always good enough just because I'm a child of God. I always deserve love just because I'm a child of God. I'm always worthy just because I'm a child of God. I always deserve to live just because I'm a child of God. And okay, of course, by God, I mean this power, this universal force, or whatever it is the God in your life. Okay? That connection to something that is bigger than us, is it helps us to navigate our life. Okay? This is very important. So now let's move on a little bit. The next part, just to kind of now we'll go quicker over our cognitions. The next part that I want to introduce you to, it's kind of called beliefs about our responsibility, but with action. This is like, let's look at the first one. I should have done something. That's in many cases, I did something wrong. I should have known better, or I'm inadequate and weak. In many cases, this type of beliefs happens when children have been abused. I've seen it a lot with sexually abused children, with sexually abused clients who were sexually abused as children. There is always a thought, if I were abused, something is wrong with me. I must have caused it. I've done it. And again, this is not just necessarily about sexual abuse. It just happens a lot with that, unfortunately, because there is also lots of shame involved in it by societal standards. Can happen if the child been physically abused or verbally abused. It's very hard. Actually, it's impossible for children to think that their parents are maybe bad people or adult figures who abuse them, the people who have power over them. They're caretakers, they're bad. Because, look at that, for a child, little child cannot survive by her own. She is 100% completely dependent on a parent. And if the parent is hurting her, she has two options. One option is to believe that she doesn't deserve it. She's a good person, but the parent is a horrible person. Okay? The second option is to think, no, my parent is a good person. But if I'm getting raped or beaten up or verbally abused, I'm not a good person. I must have done something wrong, and I'm always doing something wrong. And that's why I'm being punished for it. I deserve it. Okay? Why is it happening? This is a subconscious defensive strategy. Because if the child starts thinking, my parents are bad, it means for the child, parent is the whole world. So it means the whole world are bad and scary. And the whole world is out there to annihilate this child. And this is too much for the child brain to bear. Because if this is so, how can I survive in this scary world? The child, little psyche, cannot take it. So here comes the defensive mechanism. And this defensive mechanism works just like that. If something is wrong with me, or I've done something wrong, it means I have a hope. The world is okay. So maybe I can at least hide who I am and survive this way if I'm so bad. Or if I'm doing something wrong, maybe there is a hope that I can stop doing that and I will be okay in the world. Do you see how his mechanism works? So remember when we talked about the work of our subconscious, work of our system? Our system only, until we're conscious of that, it only cares about our physical survival. So when a 3, 4, 5-year-old child, 2-year-old child is abused, the child doesn't have capacity to analyze the situation. So the system works in the child's favor by saying, how can we ease up the child's pain? in the situation, how we can help her to survive, not thrive, but survive. And it feels that in order for a child to survive and don't go crazy or don't run away and kill themselves from fear, is to have a picture of the parent and the world as the good ones and themselves as the bad ones. Because if it's so, maybe they can change and adjust. But if the whole world is bad, this is unbearable for a little child. And it means there is no safety, there is no escape. They're completely trapped. Okay, so that's how it works. And the child starts thinking, I must have done something wrong. Okay, and I gave you like extreme scenarios of that. There can be less extreme scenarios when children can think could have done something. I should have done something. As example, let me give you less extreme scenario. Say the child's pet ran away and it comes back and its leg is broken. And the parents is telling the child, you shouldn't watch the dog. The child may be 4 years old. Or maybe the dog is so big that maybe it was trying to hold it and the dog still ran away. There was no way the child could have prevented it. But this big authority figure is telling him, you're not fulfilling your responsibility. You should have done something. So the child always starts thinking, no, it's always my fault. Should have done something. Or I am inadequate and weak. If the child is, as example, going to bully it in school, maybe not even beaten up too much, but just bullied. But maybe due to his upbringing, or maybe due to his, can be anybody, his or her or they, or to character. Just some people are more aggressive by nature, some people are more withdrawn by nature. She doesn't reply to her bullies, she just avoids them. And she starts thinking to herself, I'm inadequate, I'm weak. And maybe her parents tell her, why don't you stand up for yourself? Why are you so weak? Or maybe kids laugh at her and say, oh, she can't even stand up for herself. So she starts thinking, in any situations, no, I cannot do anything in life because I'm so weak. Okay, so, but are we really? If we have this perception, I should have done something, we can say, well, in some here, how we're changing them usually, here we're looking at the reality of the situation and saying, okay, when you're a 3-year-old child and you maybe have 70 pounds German Shepherd who ran away, could you really stop this dog from running away? Is it possible? No. So what you've done the best you could. Maybe the 3-year-old, you didn't even know what was happening, or you tried to stop him, but you couldn't. It's not to say that we always can prevent painful or bad situations happens to us. No, it's not about playing with reality. It's about realistically assessing the situation. So now, if we have this always perception, I always responsible for things. I always should have done something. And if the bad things happen to me or to people I love, this is because of me, because I have not done enough. This one has to be changed very realistically to the cognition which saying, I did the best I could. And in any situation, I can do the best, not all, the best I can. Some situations, it can help some situations. Some it cannot, because I'm not omnipotent, but I know that I'm capable to do the best I can. And I am capable to understand as an adult now that there are some situations where unfortunately I might not be able to do anything that is possible to. And I'm just giving you some examples. Again, remember, just listen. We will definitely work on your specific examples in individual session. I'm inadequate and weak. No, I'm adequate and I'm a strong person. Why? Because strength is something that we're born with. It's again this attribute of our perfect self. And we all have our specific strengths. It's not like we're strong in everything. So that's why, and this is a different part of our program, that's why we're looking at our specific strengths and we're trying to utilize our specific strengths to, I don't like to say to deal with life, but the kind of using our specific strengths to turn our life in a way that is more helpful for us, the way that we want it to go. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Okay, but we know as an adult we can react to these situations and we can react to whatever happens to us in an adequate way. I'm an adequate person and I'm strong in my way. So I know the areas where I'm not strong at. So I might create a plan of how I can ask for help maybe, or how I can work around it. And I know the areas where I'm strong. Or I will know how to apply my strengths. Okay, so that's how we work with this type of beliefs. So let's go to the next one, is safety vulnerability. Again, negative cognitions which are associated with a feeling of just in general unsafe in the world. In the majority of situations, again, happens when parents don't provide us safety. But some of these guys can also be associated with learned helplessness that we discussed in the beginning of our workshop. If you forgot what learned helplessness is, rewind, I don't know, it's like half an hour, 40 minutes ago we talked about it. Just listen, you might look on the internet, see what it is. If my explanation is not adequate, and ask me if you feel like you might have that. Let's talk about it, because this is so important to understand what it is, how learned helplessness can lead to creation of certain negative cognitions. So in this case, first let's talk about how some childhood painful experience can create this cognition. As example, let's take the first one. I cannot trust anyone. It usually happens when children cannot trust their care providers. They just was not safe. Maybe they were beaten up all the time without any reason. Or maybe they were physically and emotionally assaulted continuously and they didn't know when it will be coming from, and they didn't have anybody around them who could really support them, who can really create any kind of safety. Okay, so they start thinking the world is a very dangerous place and they never can relax. They always have to be on the high alert. Okay, so that's how it's created. Or I cannot protect myself. Maybe the child, of course, how can a little child protect themselves against big, strong adults? They can. So they start believing that there is no way I can protect myself. I'm so weak. So that's usually cognition that come from childhood beliefs. But let's take a second one. I cannot protect myself. Sometimes how it can happen with learned helplessness. As example, person gets in a car wreck and and maybe it's severely injured. Maybe it's not even injured that much, but something in the psyche holds on to the fear and hold on to the stress experienced in this car wreck. And the person it really attaches to it, latches onto it and starts believing it can come from anywhere. Danger can come from anywhere. Okay, so I'm completely exposed. Can even lead to agoraphobia. That people will not leave homes. Or let's take another one, like I'm in danger. Well, again, can be it can be created by the childhood experiences when the person doesn't have a safe place anywhere or very little safety, or Let's say somebody been diagnosed with critical illness, maybe once, maybe twice. So if they don't process it correctly, if they don't process the shock and pain and grief of finding out about the illness, the body might start reacting to it and holding on to this original shock and fear and always thinking, okay, there is always danger for me, there is always health danger for me, or I'm never safe. Why? That's the next one. Never safe. Why? Because I can get ill anytime and die, and they live always in a state of high alert, waiting for something to happen. Sometimes it creates hypochondria when people think when they maybe sneeze, they have a throat cancer. And it's not a laughable matter because it's a very painful belief. I am not safe. Life is not safe. And nothing I can do about it. There comes our learned helplessness. It's not just I'm not safe, I'm in danger, but it cannot be fixed. No matter what I do, it's all going to be horrible. Even when people know there can be some treatments, they don't concentrate on that, they just concentrate on the belief. I have to always protect myself and I can never relax. They're kind of living in fear all the time. Important to know, if this belief came from my childhood or is it came from something that I experienced, something significant and most probably repeated. Again, learned helplessness can come from repeated, significant, painful, significant event, or sometimes one very big, significant event, like maybe critical illness or death, especially sudden death of a loved one, or maybe debilitating bankruptcy, which person has hard time to recover from, can create a sense of nothing I can do. All my efforts are useless. So it creates a very unsafe picture of the world, and it's because it's very unsafe for us to live in the world when we feel we have no capability to affect anything in our lives. Okay? So we kind of change them, talk about how they can change to, again, adaptive, realistic, positive cognition. We can say, I cannot trust anyone. We can say, well, now, as a child, of course, I couldn't trust anyone because I didn't see any kindness from anybody. I didn't see any safety from anybody. Of course, the only way for me to survive as a child was to be on a high alert. Do not trust anyone. But now, as an adult, I can discriminate. I have the power which I didn't have as a child. The power of analysis, the power of observation. I can get to know people first, and then I can choose, by getting to know a person, who I can trust. Okay? Again, remember, we're not saying I can trust everyone. No, this is not adaptive belief. Okay? It's not safe belief. Adaptive belief, yes, there are some people who cannot be trusted, but there are some people who can, and I have a capacity to differentiate between these types of people. And going further, it's just a side note, and even if I will be betrayed as an adult, I can survive it. I can survive the feelings of pain, the feelings of maybe fear that I couldn't survive as a child. So there is different levels to working with cognitions, and I want to introduce you to them because, again, we might apply different ways to work with them. In our individual sessions, we just need to see what would be the most beneficial for you, okay? Or, I am not safe, okay? We cannot say, how do we change it? We cannot say you are always safe, because sometimes you don't, because sometimes, yes, you can get in a car accident. You can get sick, it is possible. But with this one as example, we're taking ourselves to the present moment. But now, at this moment, I am safe. How? And then we say, okay, so our system is already comes down a little bit. Remember our friend amygdala, which always reacts to our safety or unsafety, who always wants to protect our physical well-being and existence. When we're just saying to ourselves, I am safe now, the message goes to amygdala. Okay, now we're okay. We can relax. We don't have to be on high alert. Okay, so and then turn the message goes to our executive prefrontal cortex. The whole system is safe. You're okay. You can concentrate on doing something or just relaxing. You're doing something that you need to do that is enjoyable. And then, as an adult, we can say, well, that's established. At this very moment, I'm safe. It is possible? Yes, I can get sick. Then I have a power to get treatments. Again, going down the line. I can get treatments. Will these treatments heal me? Most likely. They might not. But this is somewhere in the future. This is the next step. But that I will cross this bridge when I get there. But I know I have a capacity to do all I can to help myself to get better. Okay? At the same time, we say, can we get in another car accident? Well, absolutely. Can I prevent it? There is a ways like how I can minimize the risk. I can always be attentive on the road, right? I can be always watching out for the weird drivers. Yeah, it's a good idea to be attentive. So if I see somebody's driving funky, I might move away or just let them pass, right? There is a way to be a good defensive driver. So I can minimize my chances. But right now, in this very moment, nothing is happening. Right now, in the very moment, I'm okay. So that's how we're working with them. We're creating this balance between saying, as a child, of course, the only way I could survive is to not trust in anybody, is to always feeling I'm in danger, because I was. And I didn't have a capacity to protect myself. If I would just relax and somebody will attack me, I could have died. So it's better for me to avoid the attack, okay? And not trust anybody. That's how I got sick. That's how I survived. But now, as an adult, I don't have to survive like that anymore. I can free up some energy from myself that were all concentrated on survival into thriving. Okay? So now let's move to the next part, which here are called power, control, choice category of negative, painful beliefs. You can see how they're all interconnected, but these ones are more related to our internal sense of power. Am I able to control my life? Do I have any kind of power? And it goes even deeper here. Can I even trust myself? Do I really know who I am? Can I really handle life? It goes to basically, is it safe for me to live? Okay? And again, these beliefs can be done when something, again, childhood, powerlessness, we cannot control anything. Our parents, our caretakers completely run our life. I cannot escape beatings. I cannot escape abuse. Okay? Or it can be like even, let's call it maybe even lesser options. I'm not in control, as example, when I'm just saying it's not the lesser trauma, but it's kind of maybe less dramatic experience. As example, like when your parents doesn't let you choose your clothes. They might not abuse you, they might love you very much. But they would think, not physically abusing, because in a way not letting a child of certain age to pick up at least some type of clothes, it can be traumatic for a child. But the child learns, no matter what I do, no matter what I say, I will still have to do what my parents tell me. I still have, there is my word doesn't count. I cannot even pick my clothes. And again, we're not talking about buying some clothes that parents cannot afford or giving like even child an option. Okay, what do you want to wear today? Look at your closet. Maybe no, that's what you're wearing, no discussions. No, some people say not a big thing, but it can instill the belief in the child. Well, what can I control? Nothing I can't control, okay? Or when parents tell a child, you know what do you know about life? What do you know about anything? You're your own worst enemy. So the child can start thinking, I cannot trust myself. I cannot trust my judgment. Because why? Because what do I know? I'm always making mistakes. My decisions cannot protect me. So the person will go throughout life always doubting herself. And it would be extremely hard to make any kind of decision in this case. Or here is the one here which looks like it's a kind of stands out, but it's really not. And I want to talk to you about it for a second. I have to be perfect. Why? What is perfection really? Seeming perfection is a protective mechanism. So if I am perfect in some ways, maybe as example, I'm bringing all straight A's always. Or I am the best worker. I will never say no to my boss. Or I never miss a deadline. Okay? Or I am getting promotions every year. I'm a CEO of the company. I have to be CEO of the company. Or I have to be the best mother ever. I have to, I don't know, I'm not giving you an extreme example. I have to sew and knit all the clothes for my children just because that's what the mothers do. I might not like it, but I have to. I can never do something not 100%. I can never relax. That, in the majority of cases, a protective mechanism from hiding defectiveness. Something is not right with me and I don't want people to find out. So I have to put this mask of perfection. Or it can be protective mechanism from one of these other beliefs. As example, I'm not in control. The true belief life is really uncontrollable. But can I control maybe at least one portion of my life? Maybe that can be my career. Maybe this is the way I do the assignments or the way I prepare lunches, impeccable lunches for my kids. Maybe finding one area which I can somewhat control, it gives us at least some sense of stability. Subconsciously, it's hard for us to live knowing that just anything can happen to us anytime and nothing we can do about it. So we're creating some latching onto very little small things, which we can maybe control in some ways and say, okay, at least here I have some kind of ability to manage life. How do we change this ones? If our cognition, I'm not in control, we might say, of course. As a child, of course you weren't in control. You weren't capable to. And you couldn't even control your emotions or thoughts. Why? Because children just can't. Even as adults, we can not control them. We can manage them, but we cannot quite control them, okay? But you wasn't in control then. But now you're an adult. In which way you're in control? Say, I'm in control now. Which means, again, let's make it adaptable. It doesn't mean I can control everything in life. No, I can't. Can I control my emotions? Sometimes no. Can I control my thoughts? No. But as an adult, I can control how I express my emotions. I can control how I act on them or not act. I can control how I act or not act on my thoughts and how I maybe process my thoughts. And there are some events in my life, as example, I don't know, finding a job or partner or whatever, make for lunch to my children. Yeah, maybe that I can control. But there are some events I cannot. So see the adaptable belief now. And for any situation, I can See and assess it. Can I control some outcomes? Maybe not the outcomes, but can I control my actions? Can I control my approach? Yeah, in the majority of cases you can. Can I control the outcome? No, nobody can. But I can take some actions, something that you couldn't have done as a child. But now I can take some physical actions, emotional actions, spiritual actions to work with the situation. So in many ways, I'm in control. Okay? Or I have to be perfect. Let's take this one. If we really believe, if we really start connecting to the belief that we are perfect, beautiful creature inside, okay? Beautiful human being. And it's okay to be myself. We're all different. We're all perfect in our own way. And we're all different. And it's okay to show the world who I really am. Why? Because there's nothing shameful about me. Okay? I might be very interesting. I'm interested in how other people are. And I'm assuming that other people treat me just the same with interest. And what is important, I can make mistakes. Why? Just because I'm human. And that's what we humans do. We make mistakes. And if I make a mistake, I can correct it. Why? Again, going back to, at the core, I'm capable. I'm capable of correcting mistakes. My mistakes are not gonna kill me. And they're not gonna make me any less of a human being than I am. Maybe not anymore, but not any less. My mistakes do not define me. That's how I work with this condition. This is, in a nutshell, the major type of painful beliefs that we're going to review in our individual sessions. And now we will go to the process of how can you start looking at your beliefs and change them and go down the road of changing them towards positive beliefs. Okay, now let's move towards the actual practical approaches of how you can change your negative cognition into the positive. So basically how you can desensitize, using the language of therapy, desensitize negative cognition, meaning how can you reduce the impact of this cognition into your life, and how you can instill the positive cognition. And this work is done. I would think that the best approach to this work would be after you mastered your inner child work and possibly resourcing work. Resourcing work can be very helpful in this way. Resourcing work can be very helpful for changing the cognitions, but inner child work can create a wonderful foundation for it. And you will see why. Because in inner child work, we're learning to understand our feelings. We're learning to relate to ourselves in compassionate and kind manner. And we're also creating the level of safety, which, as you will see, would be very important for cognition change work. So basically in this program, we're kind of touching the surface of it. Obviously, we're giving you some ways to work with it. But my advice would be, once we finish the program, if you feel that you're okay doing it on your own, with some help that we will give you in our individual session, and we can make an assessment if you're okay to do it of your own, by all means, you're in the right track. But if you will feel that you need more work, maybe in the process of looking inside yourself, you will see that your trauma was more significant that you felt in the very beginning. It doesn't have to be, but it happens sometimes. Then I would strongly suggest for you to work with a qualified therapist. It doesn't have to be me. It can be any therapist that qualified to work with trauma. Okay, but definitely we will talk about it We will talk about it in our individual session, and together I will help you to make an assessment of how to proceed further with rewiring of your traumatic perception. So here I will just run you through the exercise, which can be done after or in conjunction with inner child work. Well, first of all, before going into rewiring our negative cognitions, we have to go back to our safe and calm place that we covered extensively in our inner child work. So here I just want to kind of give you a brief rundown of what it is. So again, in your mind's eye, you will create a place. It can be a real place, maybe a room in your home, maybe it was a place that you pick up from a memory, maybe it's a garden from your childhood, okay? Maybe it's some beach where you've been to, or it can be completely magical place where you have never been. The place where you feel very, very safe and comfortable. In our inner child work, hopefully you remember that we created that place and then we fine-tuned it for your inner child, because it's not supposed to be just not the place where you can relax now, but a place where your inner child can feel safe, secure, and peaceful. And I would really advise you to kind of keep the same place. You can fine-tune it a little bit, but it would be even more helpful if that would be the place where both you and the inner child can feel secure and relaxed. Okay, so here we absolutely start with having, if you, for whatever reason, skipped inner child work, go back to at least to the video, listen to the safe place, and we will discuss it, okay? And then start applying this technique before doing any cognitions work, okay? So after our safe, calm place is created in your mind's eye, or maybe it's in a physical place, and everything is changed and fixed in this place to be calm, secure, and peaceful, we can move on to the next step, okay? And the next step, it would be identifying negative cognitions. And I will tell you how we're doing that, and then I will walk you through an example. So again, as I'm repeating over and over again, just listen for now. Don't worry if you don't get something. We will talk about it in depth in our individual work. How do we identify negative cognitions? So at the beginning, I would say go back to our PowerPoint. Look at the list of cognitions. So here we have responsibility, responsibility defectiveness, responsibility actions, and all the other cognitions. So what you do? I would say go over this list very quickly. Maybe spend no more than a minute or two over. You just read them and just say, okay, do they apply to me or not? Don't overthink them. Do not. Go with your first instinct. So, I'm in control? I'm not in control. Applies to me? No. I'm powerless? No. I cannot get what I want? Yes. I cannot stand up for myself? Yes. I cannot let it go? No. Just like that. Go by your first instinct. Maybe, and just put the check marks to the ones that apply to you. Maybe it would be 5 or 6 negative beliefs. And you go through all the 4 lists attached in your PowerPoint. Okay? Very quickly. Don't look at positive cognitions yet. Just concentrate on negatives. Went through all the list and put check marks on all the cognitions that apply to you. Then the next step, which is very important, you go back and you create a list. Top 5. Let's say top 5 beliefs that hurt me the most. We're not even saying which are strongest, which are the strongest, which are less, kind of takes a lesser grip on you. Right now, we're not concerned with that. What we're concerned with, which painful beliefs hurt me the most, affect my life the most. So as example, I picked up the beliefs, and I'm just giving an example. I cannot be trusted. I have to be perfect. I did something wrong. And I'm in danger. Okay, and maybe there was many other beliefs. I cannot succeed. I cannot handle it. I cannot be trusted. What else? I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm insignificant. Maybe I have 15 beliefs that apply to myself. So I'm saying, okay, I should have done. I did something wrong. I should have done something. On the scale, you can even set a scale for yourself. Say, on the scale from 1 to 5, how does that belief affects my life? Don't overthink it too. 1, it affects it very little. 5, it just ruins it. It's affected as much as it possible. So if we're somewhere between, and just rate all the beliefs on the scale, all your 15 or 20 beliefs. Again, don't spend more than maybe 5-10 minutes on this exercise. Go by your instinct. Remember, we can always refine and fine-tune it. And down the road, if you get into this work, you can work with all your beliefs. It's no problem. But in the beginning, let's pick up the ones that affect your life the most, because these are beliefs that we would process in our work together. Because I would really want you to help you out with this one. Just in case if you decide not to work with me or with any therapist after the program is over. Okay? So, as example, you will say, I'm a disappointment. Yeah. It ruins all my relationships. I can never be just enjoying my life. I was always beating myself down. Say it's 5 because I cannot get friends, I cannot have a partner, I have a hard time holding on to the job. Yeah, it's 5. So down. Or maybe believe that I did something wrong. Yeah, sometimes it comes up. And sometimes I feel that I should have done better and there is something, it's not quite right, but it interferes with my life once in a while, but it's not really detrimental. Maybe 1 and 2. We'll just leave it for now. So let's come up with 5 beliefs that run your life, like really run your life at 4 or 5 level, like really detrimental to your life or almost. If you have no beliefs that you feel are really, really affecting your life, that come up with 5 that are 3. Borderline, maybe yes, maybe no. If you feel that, there is some negative beliefs that you want to work on, but really none of them affect your life at significant level, just go instinctively and pick the 4 or 5 that you feel like, yeah, this is the ones I want to work on. Trust yourself, okay? It's very important in this process. Don't overthink it, but really trust yourself and really be honest with yourself. Okay? So, and you can have this exercise before we even start. Just pick 1 negative. Let's go over the steps how to release negative cognitions. When you pick up any negative belief, negative cognition, you might think this is not the easy step, but let's talk about it. Connect, really, maybe meditate, maybe breathe, but go to a quiet place. Connect if you could, to the time when you first realized that is what you believe about yourself. As example, let's take a belief, I don't know, I'm not in control. Well, you just can, when is the first time? If it's possible, when is the first time when I felt that I'm not in control? I remember I was 4 years old and my big dog ran away and then it got hit by a car and it broke its leg and the dog was suffering. And I really wanted to try to stop this dog, but it was so big and I couldn't. And then I thought to myself, no, I cannot control it. Okay? So that's the first step. If you cannot think of any time when you acquire it, if nothing comes up to you, it's okay. So let's go to the next step. Then try to think when was the time when it felt the worst. Okay, the worst for me when I was not in control. Maybe when I felt like that my car was swerving when brakes failed. Okay, and my car crashed into the tree. Well, I survived, but it was very, very scary because I cannot control my car. Okay, the worst case scenario, right? Or when my loved one was dying and I knew that nothing I can do to help them survive and help them live. Okay, not in control, the worst case. If nothing big like that comes up, but I feel like I never can control anything, but nothing big comes up, think about the last time when you felt I'm not in control. It may be the last time when you're sitting in your meeting with your boss and you're giving some suggestions and your boss completely dismisses them. And you feel, no, nothing you can control here. Okay, so here is a rule. If you can, think about the first time you felt like that. Nothing comes up, think about the worst time. Nothing comes up again, think about any time when you felt it. Anytime you remember when you felt it. Okay? So once you remember about any of those times, think about the statement, I'm not in control, and connect to the event that happens. Let's say we don't remember our childhood events or the worst one. Let's take the last one. Yeah, I remember this meeting when I was sitting with my boss and my boss dismissed all my suggestions, but I knew the suggestions was helpful, they were accurate, but nothing I could do. My boss overruled me. I could not control anything in this situation. Just really go to that meeting. In your mind's eye, imagine yourself in this room. Hear your boss's voice. And try to connect to the feeling. What did you feel in that moment? Was it sadness? Was it anger? Was it guilt? Maybe there is a few feelings which come up. Okay? So now and I will tell you what to do if few feelings comes up. Okay? But let's now just use the easiest case scenario, so to speak. I'm talking to my boss and I'm hearing his voice and he's telling me, no, I'm not accepting anything. Nothing can be done, and I feel powerlessness. I feel so much sadness, and the only feeling that I experienced was sadness. So next step, and here is step number 3. We talked about the step number 2, feeling. Now we're going to step number 3, which calls sensations. So when I'm experiencing sadness, how does the sadness feel in my body? That might be, for that you might take some time. Sometimes nothing will come up to you. If we're very disconnected from our body, we don't know how our body feels when we experience certain feelings. It's okay. Maybe just stay with it for a while and breathe. Maybe try it again. If nothing comes to you, you don't feel anything in the body, then you might just say, okay, I don't remember how my body felt at that moment with that sadness, but when was the last time when I felt sad? How does it feel in my body? Or you might say, okay, if I just think about something very sad, can I just listen to my body if anything changes? Okay? If nothing comes up to you at all, after all you try, don't worry. Let me know. We'll work on it in a session and we'll figure it out. We'll give you some ways to how you can connect, and just don't worry about it. Now we will get there, okay? But let's say you feel something in your body, okay? Here is a sadness, let's say you say, okay, where is it? Do I feel maybe tightness in my chest? Maybe I feel there is a pain in my head. Maybe my teeth are clenching, okay? Maybe there is a heaviness in my stomach. Just stay with it. If you experience it in several places, just which place calls me the most? Again, don't analyze it. You would know. Just say, is it my chest or is it my head? Okay. Well, feels like maybe it's my chest. Don't worry, you cannot get it wrong. That's the point. If you just trust yourself, you cannot get it wrong. And then you say, okay, there is a sadness in my chest. Does it have a shape, a texture, color? Just really get close and personal with it. Just imagine it, what it feels. You might say, it feels like a hole, deep, dark hole. Maybe it's a hole filled with water. And this is a dark water. It's very heavy and it is hot. And this hole has a jagged edges. It's very deep, okay? Let's say there is a rock in my chest. It's black, it's smooth, and as big as a watermelon. Connect to it. And again, remember, we'll go over it for sure in our individual sessions. And then really feel it. And again, here I'm showing you the bypass, easy way to do it. It might work, might not work. If we have a deeper trauma, might not work. Or with a lesser trauma, it's sometimes even with relatively deep trauma, it might give you some relief. So go here, once you really imagine this feeling, really connect to it, you go to desensitization phase. In your mind's eye, you gather all these sensations. Maybe imagine a ball, if you can. Say, okay, can I have this hole in one ball? Can I have this rock? And just kind of pull it together and isolate it in my mind's eye. And then ask yourself, can I release, can my system release this sadness, this ball in the universe? Do I want to burn it in a fire? Do I want to bury it in the earth? Maybe do I want to dissolve it in the water, or just release it in the air and let it just disappear in the air? And just see if it can be done. In your mind's eye, it can be done. If you feel that nothing releases, the option might be to say, can I take this feeling? Can I create a box in my mind's eye? Take this ball out of my chest, put it in the box, and put the lid over the box, and then put this box maybe in a closet, maybe in a corner of the room, knowing that I can get and open it and connect to this feeling anytime I want. Again, this will work for relatively not very much of an ingrained trauma. For deeper, but actually, if you repeat them over and over again, it might definitely start helping you to release some of painful beliefs, again, if they're not results of significant trauma, if you don't have PTSD or complex post-traumatic syndrome system, or any kind of a post-traumatic syndrome system, or significant trauma. If, in this work, if you start realizing that your negative beliefs are caused by significant trauma or bring up some significant traumatic memories, please let me know. This is very important. Please don't hold it to yourself. Please let me know, because then we have to change certain things in our approach, and we have to create a plan of how you can start working in your trauma. Okay? But please do not hold back. I want to re-emphasize, if you will suddenly remember some very painful experiences, please let me know immediately. Okay? And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about our options. This is very important. Okay? But for now, that's how we do it. If nothing huge comes up, nothing extremely painful, that's how you can start releasing some of the negative cognitions. Okay? But now let's go backtrack a bit. What happens if several feelings comes up? So let's go step 1. You identify your painful belief, I'm not in control. Okay, you think about that time when you're talking to your boss, and then you notice, there are several feelings. There is anger, there is sadness, there is disgust, okay? Feeling like different feelings floating in you. In this case, what do we do? Again, just really briefly connect to your system without overthinking. That's very important. Just ask, what feeling calls to me first? What is it? And just trust it. It might say it's anger, or might say sadness. Just trust it. So tell your system, I will get back to the other feelings later. I will release them later, but let me now connect to my anger. That might be, like a pressure in my head. I will connect to how deep is this pressure? Is it outside pressure? Is it inside pressure? Does it have a texture? Is it metal? Is it wood? Or is it just an energy? And try to release it the same way. Just go again. We're going through step 3, go to the step 4. Once it released, go back to the next feeling. Okay, what is the second feeling that calls to me? I got disgust and sadness. Okay, maybe sadness is calling. So where is my sadness? You will do exact the same steps, 3, step 4, with sadness. And then you go back to disgust. So you have to go through all the feelings that come up for you. This is kind of might be a lengthy process. So this is work, remember? This is not easy at all, okay? Definitely worth it, but not easy at all. If one of the feelings just doesn't release, try to put in a box. If you cannot put it in a box, also just stays with you. So it's okay, just maybe put your hand on this place where your feeling resides and just say something like, I honor you and your timing. I understand that you might have to stay with me for a while, and just thank it for coming up for you. Just let it go for now and move on to the next feeling that comes up. Okay, and remember, this is, I hate to say scratching the surface, but in a way, this is a very simplified approach to this work. But yet again, I want to just introduce it to you because with some not very deeply ingrained negative cognitions, it might work. Okay, so I just want to give you an idea what you can start doing for yourself and just see where we're at. And I want you to, again, to listen to this session in its entirety, to try it. So to try it yourself. And once we go to our individual session, or we might have a couple of sessions on this one, then we will definitely find the best ways and approaches for you to start working with it on your own, which would be a little bit more involved than just this PowerPoint. Okay, and fine-tune to your situation, or we might create a plan for you, maybe give you a referral to therapists, or in some cases you might be able to work with me if you choose. If not, I will give you suggestions of how to find a therapist, maybe give you some references if you decide, referrals if you decide to continue. And I will just give you honestly my opinion if you need to continue with that outside of the constraints of our program. Okay, but this tool, or you might not have to. We'll see. But I will say try it, okay? So we have something to discuss in our session and see how I fine-tune it. Okay, so now we talked about the step of releasing negative cognitions. After, say, we released the I am not in control, I'm feeling that it's kind of went away. This feeling went away. So what do we do now? Now we need to, it's been desensitized, And how you know it's been desensitized? Every time when you start thinking about this conversation with your boss, you might still feel some sadness, but it's not a huge sadness. You might not feel anything. Just say, yeah, that was not a very good meeting. It was not a very good decision, but you really don't feel much. Maybe feel some little bit of anger, but it's nothing that overwhelms your system. Okay? So now we're going back to, now we need to install a positive, a helpful belief about ourselves. I am in control now. So what do? Basically, if you isolated your negative cognition, now it's time to go to positive cognition. And again, for that type of work, if you're doing it yourself, I would suggest is to just look at the opposite part of your PowerPoint presentation. If it says I'm in control, what is the positive cognition that counteracts this negative cognition? I am in control now. Okay, remember we talked about that one. At this moment, I'm in control. Okay? So next time when I go talk to my boss, I might say, well, I would like to escalate it. Or I might say, at least I might control my response. Okay? Or I might say, I do not agree with you. Is it maybe we can call a meeting with somebody else? Or you might say, you know what, I'm not gonna even bring it up because it's not worth it. But yet again, you know, I'm in control in my decision. I'm in control of saying, yes, we need to do more on that. Or I might not, I might decide not to tell it, but I am in control of my decision. Okay? And right now, I can control how I will react to this situation. So remember adaptive, realistic beliefs. Or if you're working with original belief, the dog ran away, nothing I could do about it. I couldn't control anything. You might say, of course, as a child, you couldn't stop the dog. Right now, most likely you can. Or you might not be able. The dog might be too strong. It might still run away. But there is a good chance that you might be able to control it. We cannot control everything, but as an adult, there are certain things we definitely can control. So, how do we install the positive cognition after we release that painful feeling? That's where our happy place comes in, our safe place comes in. We put ourselves in our happy, peaceful, safe place and think about this positive cognition that we want to replace, that we want to install. In this case, it's going to be, I am in control now. So you say it to yourself, I am in control now. And see what feeling will come up in your body. Just stay, maybe nothing will come up. Okay? Maybe no matter how many times you tell it to yourself, nothing will come up. And we'll talk to you about what to do in this situation. Actually, let's talk about it now. If nothing will come up, I'm in control now. Try to think about any event in your life or any time when something happened and you were able to control it, or you were able to make it happen, or you felt like you really done something right and it was up to you to make it happen. Imagine this event in your mind's eye and connect to how it feels. How do you felt at that moment? Okay? If something comes up, say, oh, I felt pride. Use the pride. Okay? But it's the second time. But if it's feeling, so if you say in a positive cognition, I'm in control now, and I'm in control now, and you can connect to a feeling, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's peace, maybe it's like pride. Okay? Use it as you're feeling. If you can't, reiterate, try to think about event in your life when you knew you were in control. How did that felt? And see if you can connect to this feeling. If nothing comes up to you, no matter what, It's okay, just make a note. We'll talk about it in our individual session. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll get there. But let's say you got this feeling. Say, yes, this feeling in I'm in control feels like peace going, or happiness, okay, or joy, or powerfulness. Okay? Any feeling. We're going through exact same step. Sensation. Let's say I feel joy. How does this joy feels in my body? Ooh, there is like a warm blanket in my chest. Or may I say there is like really like nice fire in my head. I feel like this very warm fire, which is very comforting. Okay, or might see fireworks and I'm just excited about this fireworks, and these fireworks are happening in my shoulders. Connect to your body. Okay, and again the same thing. How does this blanket feel? Is it made out of wool? Is it made out of cloud? Is it white? Is it black? Is it gray? Is it red? Is it very heavy? Is it lighter? What the texture of it? How big it is? The same thing as a firework. Are those fire, how big are they? Are they red? Are they yellow? Are they multicolored? Are they like sparkling, or they just erupt once suddenly? There is a lots of them. Connect to it as much as you can. Okay? Keep feeling this fireworks, this blanket, and try to, now we're going to the step 4, embodying. Send this feeling all over your body. Say, ooh, this blanket of joy, it goes throughout my whole body. All these fireworks from my shoulders, I'm seeing this fireworks with my whole body. And once your body is filled with this emotion, with this imaginary emotion that comes up as a blanket or fireworks, this joy, your whole body, you're visualizing and sensing your whole body filled with joy, you repeat the positive cognition, I'm in control now, repeat it several times. Now it's the step 5, installation. Like, there's a big blanket that's covering my whole body. It's so comforting. It's white, I don't know, with yellow flowers, and it's made out of pure cotton with some silk. There is stitching on it. I feel joy. I'm in control now. I'm in control now. Repeat it your favorite number of times. Don't go crazy. Don't repeat them like 20 times. If you want, you can. But say, I like number 5. Repeat it 5 times. I like 7. I repeat it 7 times. I like 9. Pick some decent numbers that you like. But feel this feeling. And while you're feeling the feeling, repeat this positive cognition to yourself. So after it's done, say, okay, installation is done. Perfect. So your homework would be is to repeat the steps for embodying this positive cognition if you can, would be ideal, on the daily basis for a few weeks. So you can use it as 5 minutes daily ritual, kind of in line with what we're doing with inner child work. You think, okay, here is my 1 minute or 5 minutes a day, preferably. Here it's not as important to have a very consistent timing as we did with the inner child work, but it still would be nice. But if you absolutely, for this type of exercise, cannot pick up the same time of the day, it's not that important. What's important is for you to do it on the daily basis. When you connect to this feeling of joy, maybe you recall the event. Or maybe this feeling of joy will come up right away, that we know it's already been installing. And you go through exact same process. If this feeling of joy comes up right away, you start with step 3, sensations, embodying, installation. If you feel like even after you installed it and felt it, it's not coming up immediately, you can go again through first step. Okay, go yourself to the safe place, Where is my positive cognition, which will come easier to you? Okay, now you know I'm in control now. Where is my blanket? Connect to your blanket and go through the steps again. Okay, how can you check yourself if the positive cognition if the positive cognition has been installed and if negative cognition has been removed? Here we're going back to kind of our first exercise. Remember how I told you to know that you desensitized yourself is recall the event when recall the painful event that had happened and connect to your body. If you're still very strongly reacting to it, if you get activated and this painful feelings come up, it means that it hasn't been processed yet. So what it means, we have to go over the process of release again. Or possibly apply some techniques which are outside of the scope of this program, but again, we can talk about them individually and discuss going forward process. Okay? So it might just require more extensive work, again, with me or with any qualified therapist. Okay? But it's very, very important. But if you can say to yourself, okay, here is how can we really check? And say, okay, here I'm thinking about my boss, or I'm thinking about this dog that ran away, or maybe I'm thinking about the car that went out of control. What is my distress level? From a 0, let's say, to 7. 0, I feel peaceful, calm, no distress at all. Completely processed, desensitized. 7, I feel as distressed as it can be, like I cannot function. Well, in this case, we definitely have to talk about it. If you say, well, I don't know, I'm kind of distressed, very little bit, maybe 1 or 2. I'll say, okay, what prevents it from being 0? What prevents it from not being distressed at all? Maybe there is something little left. Can I maybe go through processing really quickly again? And then you can just connect to this feeling and let it go. If you feel like you 2, 3, 4, 5, then that means the release wasn't complete or the feeling came back. It can happen a lot. It's not one. Sometimes it can be released in one session. Sometimes it takes many sessions, many attempts to do it. And there is no saying. All our subconsciousness, all our processes work differently. And some beliefs can be done in one session. Some beliefs take lots of sessions. Some beliefs might kind of stay for a while with us. Again, there is no scripting. This is all very, very individual, depends on the person, depends on belief, and depends on the way we acquired it. There is so many ways on which it depends. We cannot give a good prognosis of how soon or how it will be released. But you can definitely ease it up. You can definitely help it to get released by repeating the process of releasing our negative cognitions again. So basically you go to the steps to release the negative cognition and start the process again and again until one day you say, okay, I feel like I'm really like at 0 at 1. And then how can you measure if you truly installed your positive cognition? What you do, you can go to the same event. Say, you look at yourself at 3 years old when you couldn't control your dog. And you say to yourself, I am in control now. Remember, we're not saying I was in control back then. You're kind of looking at yourself from a side and seeing this dog is running away. But saying, yeah, but I am in control now. And then connect to your system and see, do I really believe that I'm in control now? Again, you can assess yourself from the 0 to 7. 0, I don't trust it. I don't believe that I'm in control now at all. 7, I believe it. It's just as true as can be. I absolutely positively believe that now I am in control. If it's 7, you absolutely installed it. If it's 6, say 5, 6, ask yourself, what will help me? What will help me to make it 7? Maybe here we can apply some resourcing. Maybe we need to go through installation again. Okay, but if it's anything less than that, you will probably have to go through installation again by repeating this belief and doing installation just as many times until you get to this absolute belief. Okay, that yes, it's 7. I absolutely unconditionally believe it. And again, this case we'll discuss more in the individual session, because sometimes we might stop at 6 or 5, which means that, well, maybe our system is being very cautious. Say, yeah, now I'm in control, but I'm not sure. Maybe sometimes, maybe not everything I'm in control now. We all have different systems all work differently, but it's really not distressing me right now. I'm good with it. I'm really good, and I feel like 90% to 80% I can control now, and it's good with me. I feel at peace with that. Then we're good that we installed it in whatever level it needs to be installed for us to function, okay? And function and thrive, not just function, but thrive. So we're good with that, okay? So we embodied it. Here what I took you through is some relatively straightforward exercises which you can start applying, which you can start looking at yourself before we go into individual session. And again, please, before our next session, please go over the list of cognitions, like again, just re-emphasizing it. So your homework would be checking off all the cognitions that apply, and then selecting 5 that affect you the most. Okay, so that's what we'll do in the individual session. But here you have a framework of how to work yourself with the majority of your cognitions, and you can do the same steps with any negative and positive cognition that you want to desensitize and then install. So here we are. Hope that was helpful. And I will see you next time, and sending you all my blessings.